Okay, this is kind of interesting for you. This is a program where you can customers save up to one third on approved businesses that are located in zip codes. Uh, and this YouTube live video is designed to keep you up to date as approved businesses are added by zip codes. Now, if you go to the website to get signed up to get the notifications, uh, and you sign up here on this live stream as well, then your email address and your zip code is added to the notification email list so that you're kept up to date on new businesses as they're added in your zip code. Now, after you sign up, there's no charge to sign up to get the notifications of where the businesses in your zip code are located that offer baseball coupons. Now, baseball coupons is a creation that I originated and created and promoting it with webcamipages.com, where this live video will be constantly updated with new businesses that are added as I'm on the street selling new businesses in the marketing membership advertising associates membership program that allows businesses to get an exclusive sales territory in their zip code where their business address is. See, the problem with advertising today is it's all designed for the big businesses, the big franchises. And what people don't realize, what the customers don't realize is that franchises add up to one third approximately. Now, it's different with different franchises, but I bought 10 international branded franchises, soft serve uh, franchises back in 1969. That's when I started in. That's when I got started with franchises and learning that franchises aren't for the people that buy the franchises. They're buying a job. What you're doing is basically buying a job, especially now. And back then it was a little different because you could what you when you bought a franchises. Now this is just before I bought. When I bought it, they were just switching over. That was in 1969, and they were just this company, and then others followed them. Well, this company was the soft serve company. I'm not going to throw their name out here and give them free advertising, but it's got the little curly soft serve on top of the cone. You know what I'm talking about, and they've got the flame broil line of hamburgers now that they started when I got in the business in the late '60s and early '70s. They were just introducing this flame broiled inside seating food concept. Before it was all walk up stores where you got a loose meat sandwich if you wanted something to eat with your chocolate sundae or whatever you you were going to get for dessert. See, but the thing is, what you have to understand, you see, back then when they sold a franchise, this outfit, they and other franchises, they sold county franchises or multi-county franchises, even or state, maybe I don't know. And then they left it up to the franchisee to develop stores in that area. And what they found out after a number of years doing that way, they were limiting their growth as a franchise, limiting their franchise income because what happened was these guys were smart, and ladies, I suppose, they were smart. They after they got so many stores developed in their county or wherever their territory was, their franchise was, uh, and their income got so great, they got income adjusted. A curious thing with people, but they get to where they're making pretty good money, and so they get the lifestyle that they really a lot of people, they just got enough. They don't want to work anymore. They got getting older and they don't want to work anymore. They don't want to work harder, so they just quit developing stores. Well, the franchise depends on continual development of franchise stores to get continual income. Don't you see? So they realized they had built a box for themselves, and they couldn't. It was stunting their growth. So they got smart and they decided to switch their contracts over to address franchises. So, and then they would figure out a certain amount of population within a zip code area, and then they would limit the franchise to that zip code, that population area. Based on the address, the street address of the zip code where the store was going to be located. And then when they got outside of that population circular, then they would set up another zip code. And that's why you see when you drive down the street, you see one branded franchise, and you drive a little further down the street on a commercial high traffic street, and you drive down the street, you see another, the same brand. Okay, well, that's the reason you see it that way, because what they've done there is they've expanded their franchise income by doing it that way rather than only getting a certain number of stores in a city or county, whatever, and then the guy wouldn't or the woman wouldn't put any more stores in. So then they were in a box. They couldn't, because they get paid. Franchises get paid on selling franchises, and also the percentage of sales of each franchise store. They get a percentage off the top, and they get a percentage of for advertising off the top. And they also, and then later on, they got smart and they realized rather than let the franchisee build his own store according to their specs, what they did was they went in and they started realizing that they could go to the city planning offices and they could figure out where the streets were going to be going. And they started this way back in the 70s, and they figured out where the streets were going to be going. And then they would go ahead and real estate plan their stores out on those streets and get options on that real estate, and then they would finance that real estate, and then they would build a store on it and finance that store, and then they'd turn around, and when they found a financially approved franchise for that lot, for that address, then they would transfer all that finance debt, guarantee it with the net. That's why you've got net finance, net balance sheet, net worth requirements for guys, people, women, men that want to buy franchises. You have to be worth a certain amount of money, or you can't get in. Well, the reason for that is not because they're worried about because they're going to train you to run the franchise. So what they're up to there is if you got the net worth, then they can justify leasing financing that property with a lease to you, and they transfer the financing costs over to you, and get a return on their finance costs, because they require, that's why you see, and then that did the other thing was, of course, that was the same before, but that way they could build their stores the way they wanted to, and they kept, as the economy grew, they kept increasing the financial requirements, the net worth requirements of people that wanted to buy franchises, and so their stores have, and then now they've got their contracts designed so that ever so many years, when they want to change the look of their brand, why, you don't have a choice. You just have to remodel that store up to standards, up to the new specs of the new brand, the vision or look of the brand store. And that's why you see these branded franchise stores going through remodeling, because the franchisee doesn't have any choice. And so it's really the franchise business, especially in the food business, has become, and even other categories of franchises businesses, has become more a real estate business than whatever business they're in, because they're making money on every end that there is in the deal. They're making money on the land, on the building, because they're transferring all that cost over to the franchisee. Well, when you get all that figured out as a customer, now listen to this, be careful. I'll listen to this. When you get that all figured out, it's all that cost. It's up to 1/3 all that costs when you go in, especially in the food stores. Now, all the different kinds of franchise food stores there are, when you go in there and you glance and you look at that grand, fantastic menu up there, well, when you're looking at a menu that's priced to recover all that front cost of that franchise for that franchisee, because he's got to pay that into the franchise company before he pays his business operating expenses, like his labor, and before he pays his food costs, before he pays his other fixed costs, equipment amortization, and the labor to run the place. And of course, when you realize that over the last 20 years now, the dining room used to be the center of attraction, and it was an efficient cost to keep that dining room up. But today, that's a high cost item, keeping that dining room up, because it's only used uh, sporadically and lightly, only during a couple hours at breakfast, lunch, and dinner, maybe. And then, because everything has moved over to the drive-in window, hasn't it? When's the last time you went and sat in a restaurant, in a franchise restaurant, and sat down in the tables? And yet those tables got to be clean, the floors got to be clean, the windows got to be clean, the trash has got to be emptied, and that takes cost. That takes somebody to do that, and they can't afford to, not keep it up to really top snuff, because they got their appearance, and they get docked from the franchise company coming out checking on them. The franchise police, I call them, because they keep right on the franchisees to make sure that their brand image is top notch. You see, and they got, and so, but you got, so that menu you're looking at as a third more added on to the cost of everything else you're buying, to get what you want. See, people aren't aware of that. They flock to these franchise stores and they think they're getting a good deal, or, well, they're getting hammered. You're getting hammered when you go to these franchise places, because you're paying for all the franchisee's not paying for all that extra cost. You're paying for it, because he's making his profit off of everything else after he pays the franchise fees, all the franchise fees that are involved. All right. So and then to add insult to injury, then you got your independent stores, about 50%. A lot of people think the franchise stores do all the business. Well, that's not true. If you look at the facts, you look at the data, you'll see that the independent food stores in the different categories. Now, this is real important for you to understand, customers, because you've got categories of businesses that are in the food business. Everybody doesn't eat the same thing all at once. I mean, every day when they go out to eat, they're wanting different. They want a variety. See, that's why you see this kind of a food store, and you got pizza, you got chicken, you got Subway, you got Chinese food, you got Greek food, you got all different kinds of food. Okay, and variations of every different kind of food. You got creations like Arby's. You got roast beef, and I shouldn't have mentioned that name. We got a little free advertising there, but that's okay. It can't be perfect, can I? Anyway, almost, but not quite. But anyway, so you see, then only about 50% of the food business, which is terrific, billions every year, every day. Of course, it's millions of dollars worth of business that's being done every day in every city across the United States. And so about half of it is franchised. The other half is all the other independent stores that are independent, and they're all categories of them. There's thousands of them, thousands, tens of thousands of them. They're in every city. You go in, you find any kind of a restaurant or a food place that you could imagine. The smaller the city, of course, the smaller the number of them. But the larger the city, the larger of them, and they're about half of what the franchise stores are. At least the amount of business they do is about half. Now, see, these people who have independent business stores that sell food. See, they just have one store, or maybe two, or maybe three, or whatever. Most of them are that way. There's a few bigger chains, but that's worse because the bigger they get, the more expenses they have, and therefore the higher their menu cost has to be because the customer pays all the business expenses. If they're doing a lot of advertising, well, you pay for that. The customer pays for that. The business doesn't pay for it. You pay for it. In the price that you pay for the products that you buy from these businesses that advertise. This is one of the biggest fallacies of customers. They think, boy, they're getting a good price buying all this so-called cheap food from all these so-called places, chain stores, national stores, and but what they don't realize is that every penny that company spends to operate and be there for the customer is added into the prices you pay. That's the only way they can make a profit. So and it may be you're getting a low price, but you would be getting. Here's what you have to understand, and this is why my program is very important uh, in every city where I'm opening it, because you have to understand that even if you're getting a lower price now because of one reason or another that seems lower, it's not really lower because of all these extra added costs that are on there that in my business plan, my approved businesses don't add on. And that's where you get up to that third discount you see on the website. Because what's happening, you see these other big businesses and the stores that aren't, they're independent, that are not approved, because I only have one kind of a category and a zip code. Okay. Or if there's two in a same category, they have to be in different carrier routes. So each one has got a large population base that they can sell to. Now, I like to say customers might be ignorant, and that's not meant to be denigrating of customers. It just means they might not be aware of certain opportunities. Okay, now that might be true, but one thing, when they're aware of it, they're not stupid. In other words, if they got to pay a certain amount of money for the pizza they like to buy, and most people buy pepperoni pizza, so that by far. So if they got to pay a certain amount of the place they've been buying, and they discover that they can go over to local page deals or the because of the webcam iPages website that notifies them with a live webcam every time a new business is added in a zip code, or it's a directory of the ones that are already there. As far as I know, it's going to be the only webcam directory of businesses that offer savings coupons. It's the most economical way to do it among all the members by far, because all the cost of doing it with a webcam and a website is distributed among all of the approved members, don't you see? So what, again, what that means to you as the customer is there's less cost for these businesses to have to add on to their prices that they sell you, the customer, at. And all that boils down to is that you end up saving up to a third. Now, the reason why I say up to a third is because there's some businesses don't want to offer as big a discount. They don't want to have as many of the new customer influx into their businesses for one reason or another, and some of them do, and so they offer more discounts. And see, the reason why I say customers aren't stupid is they're not going to continue to go over here and pay $10 at a pizza for a pizza they've been when they realize they're paying a third more than they need to if the pizza store that's approved in a zip code with my program is offering the full discount on and instead if you look at my website you'll see baseball coupons, and what that means is you got a first base coupon, second base coupon, third base coupon, home base coupon, and then your time at bat or time as a customer starts over again. So you get four more top discounts, and the more each time you go and get on base with a coupon using my baseball coupon at my approved stores in the zip codes, you get a higher discount each time. And so when you add them all up after four trips to the store, you end up with the maximum discount. And then you start all over. So the bottom line is you've constantly got a lower income. Now, the reason why that's important for you is because that's just like getting an automatic raise in your paycheck. Because if you're saving a third, let's say you're going out for lunch every day, okay, 5 days a week. You just automatically getting a $500 raise if you go to my stores because of the savings, cash savings that you're going to accrue without doing. I mean, you're still getting the food you want, but you're not paying as much for it. So that's just like getting a raise, isn't it? And that's just one item. Okay, it's that way in every item. Okay, it doesn't really matter because here's the thing: the other businesses can't be competitive. They can't continually lower their costs. They're already operating in order to be competitive, they think. But the bottom line is they're having because if they're an independent in one store, they're having to charge more because their operating costs per customer are higher. Okay, and the franchises are having to pay core. They have more customers, but their costs are higher because they got that franchise money they're paying out to the franchise company, and that's added on to the customers, even though they've got more customers. And of course, that means they got more income too. But my point is that at my stores, at my baseball coupon stores that are approved, those guys, those women and men that own those businesses, they don't have that cost, you see. And the other stores can't follow because if they lower their prices that much, they're going to end up going broke because they're not going to be able to maintain their profit margin, right? So that means there's a shift in the market share, and that's what this is all about for my approved members. Okay, now I've been around in sales and market. I started out in sales when I was 8 years old, Norfolk, Nebraska, selling colored greeting cards, boxed colored greeting cards to homeowners. And back then, that was 1948. Okay, and so when I went up and knocked on the door, the lady was always home then. No, very few women worked back in those days. Okay, and so that's when I started my sales career, and then I sold china and cutlery and cookware through high school, and then I got my first job with a national company when I got out of high school, and I worked for national corporations for 15 years or whatever it was, and then I started going into business for myself. Like I said, 69, I had 10 of these international branded. Dairy Queen store. There I go. I mentioned it. I'm sorry. They give a little free advertising there, but that's when I found out franchises was for the franchise, wasn't for the franchisee. All you were doing was buying a job. And then and then I went into importing, and since 1998, I've been working out of home office in my home office in Omaha, Nebraska. So I've blattered on here, but you keep track of this because this is exciting. It's, as far as I know, the only the only webcam business directory on the internet. As far as I know, I'm the first. Now I don't know if there'll be more to follow me or not, but it doesn't make any difference because they won't they won't be following me with the kind of a discount program that I got going because I sell my membership plan to businesses, independent businesses, by zip codes for $30 a year and $9 a week. Okay, now I'm not going to go take the time to explain on how all that works out, but when you start looking at 10, 20, 30 different businesses per zip code, 10 zip codes in a city, 10 cities, you're talking about, in Nebraska I've got 5 regions with X cities in a region, and it's a 2.5 to $5 million a year revenue for that membership group. And the agreement that I have, all that is, I call it capitalism zero profit. And the agreement is that all the money that comes in from the membership is used to promote the memberships. And it's verified by a certified public accountant audit that's published online for complete 100% transparency. It's the only one I know of, the only advertising program I know of where all the money that's spent by the advertisers put back into promoting the advertisers. That's the only one I know of. So I call it capitalist collective. Okay. This is the kind of thing that has to go on along with all the other things that our leader president is trying to get accomplished, because we've been getting ripped off every turn, and that's true in the food business. And I'm not trying to blame any of the business owners, but I mean, these franchise operators are that, like I say, it's a business for them to make a profit, not for their franchisees. If their franchisees uh, work hard and are good managers, they're going to make a profit that's projected in the franchise. But when you look at what it costs to get in business, you better be making some money to get a return on that investment, right? So that's why I say you're buying a job. It might be a good job. Maybe it's better than the one you had. Maybe you inherited a bunch of money, and so you were able to get a franchise. Most people, that's about the only way they ever get any money together in the last 25, 30 years is inheriting it, because how else do you get how else do you get a high net worth starting out as a young person, or as a middle age, as a younger person, other than inherited from your parents if you're fortunate enough. Okay. Otherwise, that's why everybody's stuck in the crowd of less than being middle. I mean, we know that half of the zip codes is under. They consider low income today 60 grand a year. So you understand what I'm talking about. Well, thanks for looking and listening, and keep track of this, because it's going to be this is an exciting program, and you'll learn more about it as we go along.